The ship landed in New Seoul on a cold morning in March. Kongtae stood at the edge of the landing pad with 20 other soldiers, watching the alien vessel touch the ground. Steam rose from the concrete. The engines made a sound like thunder, dying slowly. Tae had seen aliens before. Everyone had, since humanity joined the Galactic Union 15 years ago. But he had never seen a Valoran up close. They were one of the oldest races in the galaxy. They looked down on humans the way a king might look at insects. The ship's door opened. 4 Valoran guards came out first, tall and silent, their silver armor catching the morning light. Then came the princess. She was smaller than Tae expected. Her skin was pale silver, almost like moonlight made solid. Her eyes were a deep violet color, and her white hair fell past her shoulders like water. She wore a simple dark dress, and she walked like someone who had been taught to never show fear. Her name was Lyra. She was the youngest, daughter of the Valoran Emperor, and she was now a prisoner of Earth. Commander Baekjun stepped forward and gave a short bow. His face showed nothing. "Welcome to Earth, Princess. You will be comfortable here." Lyra did not smile. She did not speak. She simply nodded once and followed the guards toward the waiting transport. Tae watched her go. For just a moment, their eyes met. He saw something in her face that surprised him. Not anger, not pride, just tiredness. Deep, heavy tiredness. Then she was gone, and his commander was shouting orders. The compound where Lyra would live was beautiful. It had gardens and fountains and rooms filled with expensive furniture, but it was still a cage. There were cameras in every corner, guards at every door, energy shields around the walls that could stop a missile. Tae was assigned as her primary watcher. His job was simple: stay close. Watch everything. Report anything strange. For the first week, Lyra barely spoke. She ate little. She spent most of her time sitting by the window, looking at the city outside. Sometimes Tae wondered what she was thinking, but he did not ask. It was not his place. On the 8th day, everything changed. Tae was standing outside her room when the door opened. Lyra looked at him with those strange violet eyes. "You are always here," she said. Her voice was soft, but there was curiosity in it. "Yes, Princess. That is my duty. Do you not get tired of watching a door?" Tae almost smiled. "Sometimes. But I have watched worse things." Lyra tilted her head. It was a small movement, almost like a bird. "What is your name?" "Kongtae." "Kongtae," she repeated slowly, testing the sounds. "You are different from the others. They fear me. Or they hate me. But you do not seem to feel either." Tae thought about this. "I do not know you well enough to hate you, and I have seen things more frightening than a princess." For a moment, something flickered in her eyes. It might have been surprise, or maybe amusement. "You are strange, Kongtae," she said. Then she went back inside and closed the door. But the next day, she opened it again. Slowly, they began to talk. At first, it was just small things. Lyra asked about the food the servants brought. Tae explained what rice was, what kimchi was, why humans drank something called coffee, even though it tasted bitter. Lyra tried the coffee and made a face like she had swallowed poison. Tae laughed before he could stop himself. She stared at him. "You laugh easily. Is that wrong?" "Among my people, laughter is rare. It is considered undignified." "That sounds sad." Lyra was quiet for a long moment. "Perhaps it is." Days turned into weeks. Lyra began asking more questions. About Earth, about human history, about why humans fought so many wars and yet still believed in things like love and hope and friendship. She did not understand these things. In her world, power was all that mattered. Emotions were weaknesses to be hidden. But Tae was different. He talked about his family, about his mother who made soup when he was sick, about his father who taught him to fish in the river near their village. He talked about Yun Sora, his second-in-command, who acted tough but secretly fed stray cats behind the barracks. Lyra listened to everything. And slowly, something inside her began to change. She started eating more. She walked in the gardens. She asked Tay to show her how to make paper cranes, a human tradition he had learned as a child. Her silver fingers were clumsy at first, but she did not give up. By the end of the afternoon, she had made 12 cranes, and her eyes were bright with something that looked almost like joy. "Why do humans make these?" she asked, holding up a small paper bird. "For hope," Tay said. "There is a story that if you make 1,000 cranes, you get one wish. That is foolish. Paper cannot grant wishes. Maybe not. But the act of hoping, that has power." Lyra looked at the crane in her hand. She did not throw it away that night. Everything changed again. Lyra was in her room when she heard voices from the communication device hidden in her luggage. It was a secure channel, meant only for the Imperial family. She should have ignored it. But she did not. She listened, and what she heard made her blood turn cold. Her father's voice filled the room. He was speaking to his generals. The peace treaty was a lie. The invasion would begin in 3 lunar cycles. Earth would fall, and Lyra would be retrieved by force before the attack began. She was nothing but bait. A distraction. A piece in a game she had never agreed to play. Lyra sat in the darkness for a long time. She thought about her father, about her people, about the cold, empty halls of the palace where she had grown up alone. Then she thought about Kong Tae, his laugh, his kindness, the way he looked at her like she was a person, not a princess. If the invasion came, he would die. Millions would die, and she would have to watch it happen. Knowing she could have stopped it, Lyra closed her eyes, for the first time in her life. She did not know what to do. The days after Lyra heard the transmission were the longest of her life. She walked through the compound like a ghost. She stopped asking questions. She stopped making paper cranes. She barely touched her food. Kong Tae noticed immediately. He brought her favorite dishes. He told her stories about his childhood. He even tried to make her laugh by doing a terrible impression of Commander Baek Jun, but nothing worked. Lyra only looked at him with sad eyes and turned away. "You were homesick, Tae," said one evening, standing in the doorway of her room. "I understand. Being far from your people is hard." Lyra almost laughed at that. Homesick. If only he knew the truth. She was not missing her home. She was drowning in guilt because her home was planning to destroy his. "You do not understand," she said quietly. "You cannot." "Then help me understand." She looked at him then. Really looked at him. His face was open and honest. There was no hidden purpose in his eyes. He simply wanted to help her. This human, who had every reason to see her as an enemy, only wanted to make her feel better. It made everything worse. "You should not be kind to me," Lyra said. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Your species does not understand what kindness costs." A was quiet for a moment. Then he shrugged. "Maybe, but it does not cost me anything to be decent to you." Something cracked inside Lyra's chest. She felt tears burning behind her eyes, but she did not let them fall. Valorans did not cry. Valorans did not feel. That was what she had been taught since birth, but standing there, looking at this strange human who treated her with more warmth than her own family ever had, Lyra realized something terrible. She had feelings for him, not just respect, not just curiosity. Something deeper, something that made her heart beat faster when he entered the room, something that made her want to protect him, even if it meant betraying everything she knew. In Valoran culture, such feelings were shameful. Love was weakness. Attachment was a chain that enemies could use against you. Princesses were meant to be cold, calculating, perfect. Lyra was none of those things. Not anymore. She spent the next 3 days locked in her room, refusing to see anyone. She tried to think clearly. She tried to find a way out that did not involve betraying her father or watching Tae die. There was no such way. If she stayed silent, the invasion would happen. Earth would fall. Tae and millions of humans would be killed or enslaved, and Lyra would be taken back to the Empire, where she would spend the rest of her life knowing she could have stopped it. If she spoke, she would be a traitor. Her own people would hunt her. Her father would never forgive her. She would lose everything she had ever known. But what had she ever known? Cold hallways, empty thrones, a father who saw her only as a political tool, a mother who died when she was young, brothers who competed for power and never once asked how she felt. She had never known kindness till she came to Earth. She had never known warmth until Kangte smiled at her. On the fourth night, Lyra made her decision. She could not stop the invasion from inside her cage. But if she could escape, if she could reach the Galactic Council before the attack began, she could expose her father's lies. She could save Earth. She could save Tay. It would cost her everything. But some things were worth the cost. There was only one problem. Lyra did not want to leave without seeing Tay one more time. Not as his prisoner. Not as the alien princess he was assigned to watch. She wanted to see him as herself. As Lyra, just Lyra, she began to plan. Meanwhile, Yoon Sora was growing suspicious. Sora had served with Tay for 5 years. She knew him better than anyone. And she could see that something was changing between him and the princess. The way he talked about her, the way his eyes softened when he mentioned her name, it was not good. Soldiers were not supposed to care about prisoners. But Sora was also smart. She did not report her concerns to Commander Beak. Instead, she started investigating on her own. She hacked into the compound's communication logs. She analyzed patterns in Valoran transmissions. And slowly she began to find strange things. Encrypted messages that did not match diplomatic channels. Military codes hidden in routine reports. Something was wrong. Sora worked through the night, pulling apart data streams and translating Valoran frequencies. By morning, she had found enough to make her blood run cold. The Valorans were planning something big. Something that had nothing to do with peace. She needed to tell Tay. But first, she needed more proof. Back in her room, Lyra was preparing to run. She had a small piece of Valoran technology hidden in her bracelet. It could disable the security grid for exactly 47 seconds. That would be enough time to reach the outer wall. From there, she would have to move fast. She had contacted a smuggler through a secret channel, a human named Bi Quan who asked no questions and took only credits. He would get her off Earth. He would take her to the Galactic Council. But first, she had to say goodbye. Lyra looked at the paper cranes sitting on her desk. 12 of them, small and imperfect, made with clumsy fingers and a heart that did not know how to hope. She picked up one of the cranes and held it gently. "I am sorry," she whispered to no one. "I am sorry for everything." And then she put the crane in her pocket and began to wait. Tonight, she would run. Tonight, everything would change. And somewhere in the back of her mind, a small voice kept asking the same question over and over. Would Tay hate her when he learned the truth? Would he understand why she had stayed silent for so long? Or would he look at her with those kind eyes and see nothing but a liar? Lyra did not know the answer. She was not sure she wanted to. The clock on the wall showed 3 in the morning when Lyra touched her bracelet. A soft pulse of energy spread outward, invisible to the human eye. Somewhere in the building, security screens flickered and died. 47 seconds. That was all she had. Lyra moved like water through the dark hallways. She had memorized every camera, every guard post, every blind spot. Valorans were taught to observe and remember from childhood. It was the one lesson she was grateful for now. She passed the first checkpoint in 12 seconds. The second in 23. By the time she reached the outer wall, she had 9 seconds left. The energy shield was down. Just a gap, barely wide enough for her to slip through. She ran behind her. Alarms began to scream. Red lights flooded the compound. Guards shouted and scrambled. Kangte woke from a light sleep to the sound of chaos. He grabbed his weapon and ran toward the princess's quarters. The door was open. The room was empty. For a moment, Tay just stood there. His mind refused to accept what his eyes were seeing. The bed was made. The paper cranes sat untouched on the desk. Everything was in order, but Lyra was gone. She ran. Yoon Sora appeared beside him, breathing hard. The security grid went down for less than a minute. She must have planned this for days. Tay did not answer. He was staring at the desk, at the 12 paper cranes, at the empty space where the 13th should have been. She took one with her. I am going after her, he said. Tay, that is insane. Commander Beak will send a full squad. You cannot just, I am going after her. Sora grabbed his arm. Why? She is a prisoner. She escaped. That is not your problem anymore. Tay looked at his friend. His eyes were calm, but there was something burning behind them. Something Sora had never seen before. She's not just a prisoner, he said quietly. And I think she is running towards something, not away from it. Before Sora could argue, Tay was gone. The streets of New Seoul were empty at this hour. Neon lights painted the wet pavement in shades of blue and pink. Lyra ran through the maze of alleys, her silver skin hidden beneath a dark cloak she had stolen from a sleeping guard. She knew where she needed to go. The starport was on the other side of the city. Bi-Quan would be waiting with his ship. In 2 hours, she would be off this planet. In 2 days, she would be standing before the Galactic Council. But first, she had to make a stop. Tay had told her once about a place he loved. A rooftop garden in the old district where you could see the whole city stretched out like a sea of lights. He went there when he needed to think. When he needed to feel small and peaceful at the same time. Lyra did not fully understand why she was going there. The smart thing was to run straight to the starport. Every minute she wasted was a minute closer to capture. But she could not leave without seeing that place. Without standing where Tay had stood. Without saying goodbye in the only way she knew how. She climbed the old fire escape. Her fingers finding holds in the rusted metal. The rooftop was small and quiet. There were plants growing in old containers. A wooden bench faced the city. The sky was beginning to turn gray at the edges. Lyra sat on the bench and closed her eyes. For a few minutes, she was at peace. Then she heard footsteps. She stood quickly, ready to fight. But the figure that emerged from the shadows was not a guard. It was not a soldier. It was Tay. He stood at the edge of the rooftop, his weapon in his hand. But he did not raise it. He did not shout orders or call for backup. He just looked at her with those dark, steady eyes. You came here, he said. It was not a question. You told me about this place. Lyra's voice was shaking. You said it was your favorite spot in the city. I did not think you were listening. I always listen when you talk. The silence between them was heavy. Lyra could hear her own heartbeat, loud and fast. She wanted to run. She wanted to stay. She wanted to tell him everything and beg him to understand. Tay lowered his weapon. He took a step closer. Why did you run, Lyra? She told him everything. The transmission. Her father's plan. The invasion that would come in 3 lunar cycles. The millions of lives that would be lost. She told him that she had known for weeks and said nothing. She told him that she was a coward, a liar, traitor to her own blood. And she told him that she was doing this because she could not bear to watch him die. When she finished, she was crying, real tears running down her silver cheeks. She had never cried before in her life. Tay was quiet for a long time. The city lights glittered behind him. The sky was growing lighter. Then he holstered his weapon and walked toward her. What are you doing? Lyra whispered. I am coming with you. She stared at him. You cannot. Your duty, your people, everything you have worked for, you are not my enemy, Tay said simply. You never were. And I am not going to let you face this alone. Lyra did not know what to say. In her world, no one sacrificed anything for anyone else. Power was everything. Loyalty was a transaction. Love was a myth. But Tay was standing in front of her, giving up everything he had for her. You are insane, she said. Probably. He smiled. But I have been told that is a human thing. Before Lyra could respond, another figure appeared on the rooftop. Yoon Sora, breathing hard, her weapon drawn. Tay stepped in front of Lyra. Sora, wait, but Sora did not fire. She looked at Tay, then at the princess. Then back at T. Something complicated passed across her face. Then she reached into her jacket and threw him a small communicator. "You have 12 minutes before I am forced to report this," she said. "Do not make me regret it." Tay caught the device. "Thank you. Do not thank me. Go. And try not to get killed, you idiot." Lyra took Tay's hand. Her silver fingers wrapped around his warm ones. Together, they ran toward the STARP. Together, they ran toward the stars. The smuggler's ship was old and ugly. Its paint was peeling. Its engines made strange noises. The inside smelled like machine oil, and something Lyra did not want to identify, but it flew. And that was all that mattered. Bequan was a man of few words. He was maybe 50 years old, with gray hair and a scar across his left cheek. He had been a military pilot once, before he decided that following orders was not for him. Now he transported cargo across the galaxy, asking no questions and expecting no answers. He looked at Tay and Lyra when they boarded. He looked at their joined hands. He looked at the fear in their eyes. "The Galactic Council Station," he said. "That is a long trip. Can you do it?" Tay asked. "I can do anything if the price is right," Juan smiled, showing a gold tooth. "Lucky for you, the princess paid well." The ship lifted off just as the first military vehicles arrived at the starport. From the small window, Lyra watched Earth grow smaller and smaller until it was just a blue dot among millions of stars. She had never felt so free. And so terrified, the journey to the Galactic Council's headquarters would take 12 days. 12 days of hiding. 12 days of running. 12 days of waiting for her father's hunters to find them. For the first 3 days, Lyra barely slept. She jumped at every sound. She watched the radar screens for hours, looking for Valoran ships. She rehearsed what she would say to the council over and over until the words lost all meaning. Tay stayed close to her. He did not push her to talk. He did not ask questions. He simply sat beside her, a quiet presence, steady and warm. On the 4th night, Lyra finally broke down. She was sitting in the cargo bay, wrapped in a thin blanket, when the tears came. Not quiet tears like before. These were violent sobs that shook her whole body. Years of pain, years of loneliness, years of pretending to be made of stone, all of it came pouring out at once. Tay found her like that. He did not say anything. He just sat beside her and put his arm around her shoulders. Lyra leaned into him. She cried until she had nothing left, and when she was done, she felt lighter than she had in years. "I am sorry," she whispered. "For what?" "For being weak." Tay shook his head. "Crying is not weak. It takes strength to feel things. It takes courage to show them." Lyra looked at him. In the dim light of the cargo bay, his face was soft and kind. She could not understand how someone could be so gentle in a universe so cruel. "My people would say you are foolish," she said. "What would you say?" Lyra thought about this for a long moment. Then she leaned forward and pressed her forehead against his. "I would say you are the best thing that ever happened to me." Tay's hand came up to touch her cheek. His fingers were warm against her cool skin. For a moment, the whole universe was just the two of them. Breathing the same air, sharing the same space. Then the ship's alarm started screaming. Juan's voice crackled over the speaker. "We have company. 3 Valoran hunter ships, coming in fast." Lyra's blood went cold. They had found her. Her father's assassins, sent to drag her home and silence her forever. Tay was already moving. He ran to the cockpit, Lyra right behind him. Through the front window, they could see 3 dark shapes cutting through the stars. Valoran ships were fast and deadly. There was no way Juan's old cargo vessel could outrun them. The lead ship opened a communication channel. A cold voice filled the cockpit. "Princess Lyra, you are ordered to surrender immediately. Hand yourself over, and your human companion will be spared. Resist, and you will both die." Lyra's hands were shaking. She reached for the controls, ready to surrender. Ready to save Tay even if it meant her own death. But Tay got there first. He pushed her hand away and grabbed the ship's controls. His eyes were focused, his jaw tight. "Juan," he said. that nebula ahead. How bad is the radiation? Juan looked at him like he was crazy. Bad enough to melt our shields if we stay too long. Why? Can the Valoran ships handle it? No, their systems are more sensitive. They would never. Good. Tay pushed the throttle forward. The ship lurched, diving straight toward the glowing cloud of purple and gold that filled the space ahead. Lyra grabbed his arm. What are you doing? This will kill us. Maybe, Tay said, but they will not follow. And maybe is better than definitely. The ship plunged into the nebula. Radiation alarms screamed. The lights flickered. Sparks flew from the control panels. Lyra could feel the heat rising, could see the shields struggling against the deadly energy that surrounded them. Behind them, Valoran ships stopped at the nebula's edge. They did not follow. No sane species would fly into a radiation field that could kill them. It was suicide. But humans, as the galaxy kept forgetting, were not always sane. The ship burst out of the other side of the nebula. The engines were smoking. Half the systems were fried, but they were alive. Juan stared at Tay with wide eyes. You are absolutely insane. I have been told that before. Lyra was shaking. Not from fear this time. From something else? Something that made her chest feel tight and her eyes burn? Why? She demanded. Why did you do that? You could have died. We both could have died. Tay looked at her. His face was tired but calm. Because you are worth it, he said simply. Lyra did not know what to say. She did not know how to respond to someone who would risk everything for her without hesitation. So, she did the only thing she could think of. She kissed him. It was clumsy and desperate and probably not how kisses were supposed to be. But when Tay kissed her back, none of that mattered. For the first time in her life, Lyra understood what it meant to be loved. 2 days later, they reached the Galactic Council station, and waiting for them at the docking bay was her oldest brother. With murder in his eyes, Prince Doran was everything Lyra was not. Tall, cold, powerful, his silver skin was darker than hers, marked with the ceremonial scars of a Valoran warrior. His violet eyes held no warmth, only calculation. He stood in the center of the docking bay with a dozen Imperial guards behind him. The Valoran delegation had arrived before them, and they had come prepared. Little Sister Doran said, his voice smooth as poison. You have caused our father much trouble. Lyra stepped forward, putting herself between Doran and Tay. I am here to speak to the Galactic Council. Not to you. Council will not protect a traitor. You know this. Doran's eyes moved to Tay, studying him like one might study an insect. Is this the human you threw everything away for? He looks ordinary. He is more extraordinary than you will ever understand. Doran laughed. It was a cold sound, empty of joy, love. Such a human disease. I thought you were smarter than this, Lyra. I thought many things about our family. I was wrong about all of them. Tension in the air was thick enough to cut. Guards on both sides had their hands on their weapons. One wrong move, and the docking bay would become a battlefield. But before anyone could act, a door opened behind them. 3 members of the Galactic Council entered, their robes sweeping the floor. They were from different species, one tall and insect-like, one short and covered in blue fur, one made entirely of light. Enough the being of light said. Its voice echoed strangely, as if coming from everywhere at once. This matter will be decided in the council chamber, not in a docking bay. Princess Lyra, you have requested to speak. The council will hear you. Doran's jaw tightened. This is an internal Valoran matter. The council has no authority. The council has authority over all matters that threaten galactic peace. The blue-furred delegate interrupted. An accusation of a planned invasion falls within our jurisdiction. The princess will speak. For a moment, it looked like Doran might argue further. Then he stepped aside, his face a mask of controlled rage. Very well, he said. Let her speak. Let her embarrass herself before the entire galaxy. The council chamber was enormous. Representatives from 100 worlds sat in a massive circle, watching as Lyra walked to the center platform. She felt small and exposed, like a single candle in a vast darkness. But she was not alone. Tay walked beside her, his presence steady and warm. Lyra told her story. She told them about the transmission she had heard, about her father's plan to invade Earth while pretending to pursue peace, about the millions of lives that would be lost if the attack proceeded. Some delegates listened with interest, others with skepticism. The Valoran delegation sat in stony silence, their eyes burning with hatred. When Lyra finished, Doran stood.
"This is nonsense," he said, his voice carrying across the chamber.
"My sister is confused. She has been manipulated by this human. She does not know what she is saying. I know exactly what I am saying. You are a child playing at politics. You have no evidence. Only the word of a lovesick girl who betrayed her own blood for an alien man." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Lyra could feel the mood shifting. Doran was good at this, at twisting words, at making truth sound like lies. She had seen him do it 1,000 times in the Imperial Court. She was going to lose. Then Tay stepped forward. "May I speak?" The chamber went quiet. A human, addressing the Galactic Council directly. It was unusual, perhaps even offensive. But the being of light nodded. "You may." Tay's voice was calm, but it carried. "I am not a diplomat. I am not a politician. I am just a soldier who was assigned to watch a prisoner." He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of delegates from worlds he had never seen, species he had never encountered. But what I saw was not a prisoner. I saw a woman with courage, a woman who could have stayed silent and safe, but chose to risk everything for people she did not even know. For people who are not even her own species. Tay turned to face the Valoran delegation. "To face Doran, my people clawed our way out of the mud and into the stars. We did not do it by bowing to tyrants. We did not do it by accepting lies because they were comfortable. We did it by fighting for what was right, even when it was hard." His voice rose, filling the chamber. "The princess came to you seeking justice. She gave up her family, her home, her throne, everything she had to tell you the truth. If this council turns her away, then you prove that the galaxy's laws mean nothing. You prove that power matters more than justice. And if that is true, then humanity wants no part of this union." Silence. Then slowly, the blue-furred delegate began to clap. Others joined in. Not everyone, the Valoran delegation, sat frozen, but enough. Enough to show that Tay's words had reached them. The being of light raised a hand, and the chamber fell quiet again. "The council will investigate these claims. Until the investigation is complete, the Valoran Empire is ordered to cease all military operations near human space. Princess Lyra will be granted temporary asylum. Prince Doran, you may return to your father with this message." Doran's face was twisted with rage, but he could not argue with the council's ruling. Not here, not now. He turned to Lyra one last time. "This is not over, sister." "No," Lyra agreed, "but I am not afraid of you anymore." His guards followed, and just like that, it was done. 3 months later, the Galactic Council confirmed Lyra's accusations. The Valoran Emperor, facing condemnation from 100 worlds, abandoned his invasion plans. He also officially disowned his youngest daughter, declaring her dead to the Empire. Lyra did not care. She was not a princess anymore. She was something better. She was free. Earth granted her asylum. She found a small apartment in New Sol, near a rooftop garden she had grown to love. Tay visited every day, sometimes bringing food, sometimes bringing paper cranes, always bringing warmth. One morning, they stood together on that rooftop, watching the sun rise over the city. The light painted everything in shades of gold and pink. Lyra took Tay's hand. Her silver fingers wrapped around his warm ones, just like they had on the night they ran. "I still do not fully understand humans," she admitted. Tay smiled. "That is okay. We do not fully understand ourselves either." A real laugh, free and unguarded. And for the first time in her life, the former princess felt like she belonged.